We will call the special meeting of September 27th, the New York Fire Commission to order. We have a special presentation on capital facilities plan tonight. We'll be doing a workshop of that presentation. So welcome everybody. Hopefully everybody can hear us. This is our first hybrid meeting, so please bear with us and please let us know by raising your hand or putting something in the chat box that if you cannot hear us or if you have a question. All right. With that, Chief, turn it over to Chief Johnson. Are you ready, sir? So wait for hotspots.
Thanks, Chief Johnson. Getting ready. I'll just take a moment to tell him, and Chief Watson did a lot of work leading up to this. But Chief Johnson has been refining it. This is the entire capital facilities plan, so all of our facilities as we look through it. And Chief Johnson will go through the training and then all of the stations. And then at the end, we can take your feedback, refine it, improve it. At some point, we will need the board to finalize the capital facilities plan for us in a public meeting so that give the public an opportunity to also give feedback too. How's that, Chief Johnson? Is all long enough for you?
All long enough for me.
All right. So, share my screen.
See that. Sure.
See your face at the top. There you go.
We're good now.
Still not. It's just open. It'll get program.
It's a few hours. Sure. That's one I never got. Yeah, go for it. Stop. Yep, I'll stop sharing.
All right, now can everybody hear me? All right, so as Chief Doan announced, Chief Watson has done a lot of work on the
capital facilities project. A lot of work has been done with Bryce Fergus Miller out of Bremerton, and this is kind of the overview of our first edition of our capital facilities project. Later on this week, we'll be getting the final, but we needed to move forward and get this in front of everybody to take a look at. So we'll jump right into it.
So there's a few things because of COVID. We blame a lot of things on COVID, but in this case, it really has to do with construction, and most of us have seen some volatility in prices of a lot of things. So currently, the construction market's ever changing, volatile at times. If you've done any kind of home improvement work lately, you've seen some of the costs of lumber and other items up and down, and the availability of certain things. As the cost estimators were working through doing this, they have had to put in an escalation for the project as it goes out from the beginning. And just an estimated timeline takes us out to 2030. We're hoping to shorten that. But some of the costs at the end of the projects have cost estimators built out that are significant. In addition to what you're going to see tonight, there's probably going to be some other anticipated costs of a project manager to help oversee and complete the projects, along with some other smaller capital items within the buildings. So our training tower, the original training tower and the campus improvements were worked on by a group of people. Commissioner Sudich, I know, was there. Chief Meyer was a member, and so was Chief Langwell. That initial guide that we got was given to us in September of 2007. Because of the economy and the way that it went, the district had made the decision at that point to put a hold on it. And we went through the county and got an extension for a conditional use permit. And that conditional use permit will expire in August 2024. The training improvements proposal. First part is a training tower. It's a 4-story building with a basement and roof access. This tower will support live fire training amongst a multitude of other trainings that the fire department is required to complete. And it will fulfill most of the district's training needs for those things. Along with the training tower, we are also proposing a training tower support building. Along with this training tower support building, it includes apparatus bays, classrooms, both a dirty classroom and a cleaner classroom, quote unquote, so that firefighters going in for training don't have to remove their bunker gear. They're in a well-ventilated covered area receiving instruction so that they can go right into training. But there's also offices, bathroom, showers, and decontamination facilities are included within the facility itself. Sure, I can speak up all we want. What's in front of you now are just kind of some exterior elevations of the building. One of the initial things you'll see kind of that are in front in the upper left are some power lines. Those are not real. They're for training purposes. They not only help us, but they will also give a training opportunity for our local pen light in that they practice pull top rescue. We currently have a smaller mock down version here, but they're a great partner with us. So the one in the upper left is the kind of the view from if you were standing behind Station 58. And then the lower right is the view from basically standing on the training ground and looking at the back of the facility, looking into the basement, and then your 4 stories going up. Training tower first floor. So first floor, kind of the basement for a better term also. There's not a lot here, but we have a garage prop and some shoring props for our technical rescue folks. And I'm not going to go into great detail, just kind of covering what's in each floor as we move along. So floor 2, obviously a little bit more. We have some kitchen props, center stair, stairwell, standpipe for those connections, A commercial stairwell, obviously different, what we're calling it as a different than the bottom is a residential stairwell. We have different things within each of those stairwells and those kinds of occupancies, and we're trying to mimic those and use two different stairwells. Along with two different apartment props and bedrooms with a live fire prop on floor 2 and the live fire prop in apartment number 1. Floor 3, as we go up in the tower, you'll kind of see that it's from the original drawing. We're kind of moving a little bit smaller as we go up. We have another apartment prop, 2 of those with some retail space and other miscellaneous building and utility props as we move up. Once again, if anyone has any questions, please let me know. Floor 4, so an SCBA confidence course. At this point, it's more of a large area that we build different confidence courses in. The wire entanglement, small spaces, moving yourself and your pack through those spaces. We have a pitched roof prop, 2 different pitches for vertical ventilation training, with some balconies that are going to be used for viewing of the folks drilling potentially on the ground below the training tower. Floor 5, rooftop ventilation, more access to different pieces of the roof. Not a whole lot going on there that kind of explains it. So moving from the training tower is the training support building, and that's kind of what we're looking at now. With the design of the building starting and most of it being completed by 2007, we actually have some pretty detailed drawings. So this is one of the drawings mainly showing, if you can look at the darker images, we have apparatus space for parking of equipment, an air compressor room for the compressed air that we use in our SCBAs, bunker gear storage, decon room, locker rooms, and then showers, bathrooms. It says coffee bar. It's not a Starbucks. It's simply a counter with some coffee pots, a classroom, and then some storage for training materials, and then 2 offices, mainly on that first floor in the training tower support building. The next slide is kind of the view above or on floor 2. We have some mezzanine storage, mechanical and electrical, and some more storage. As our training needs have changed, the basis is on these drawings. We are looking at making some simple changes of simply adding an elevator and making one of the storage areas a classroom, using the elevator as a training prop and as access to the 2nd floor. As we gain structures of height and requiring elevators within our district, we're encountering more and more elevator rescue, and that opportunity to put one in for us to train on within our training facility will help us out greatly. Next drawing. So this one has a little bit of color. Maybe hard to see, but the easiest thing to look at on this drawing is the green is going to be new pavement. Okay, so we can see currently station 58 in kind of the upper right corner of that is a building with parking. They move down, there's parking already in the back parking area of 58. Then new asphalt for more parking spots, and then that is the drill tower itself. Across the new paving and then into the support building. We have additional needed parking down below, and then some improvements on the auto extrication props to the lower left. But the biggest thing on this slide is the green is new paving. So we have cost breakdowns for each project. As I said, they're estimates. Right now, our highest priority is completing the training campus. So we are looking at the training campus as being our first building. If the capital facilities project is approved of moving forward. So if we look at the total cost on the right side of $17,999,788. Note below, this does not include the live fire training props or a breathing air compressor. The things that we had before have been outdated, and we have more up to date, but we're still waiting on those numbers. And then an air compressor would be in the app bay. Once again, those numbers aren't included in here, but if we look at the overall cost, the training tower alone is $7,413,300. Moving over to the support building, $7,281,000. And then just the site improvements for us to be able to do the work, the extra paving and those things are $3,305,154. If we look at the top, it's estimates. Construction cost escalation of 6% per year, moving from April of 22. And then down below, we pay sales tax as a fire district to build something just as well as anybody else does. So we have Washington State sales tax, architecture and engineering fees, specialty consultants, permits, testing and inspections. Some of the furnishings and the equipment would be the tables, chairs, office furniture, those things that we're looking at including in there. For this structure, we don't have a temporary housing because we're not moving anybody. Moving expenses, and then some contingency of 10% of the total project. So from above and below, you take the construction budget, including the inflation, and then add the soft costs, and that's how we wind up at the bottom with those numbers. The three across the bottom in green add up to our, in essence, our $18 million.
Chief Johnson.
Yes, sir.
Well, I wanted to highlight does not include live fire props or breathing air compressor. That's not an insignificant cost. I think each prop, last I heard, and I could be off, is like $250,000 for each prop. So we need to think of that. And like Chief Johnson said, there's old technology. We did it in 2008. The technology's got better, and we wouldn't want to do that. So we got to get some costs for you. But I think that's a big star because that's a few million. Air compressor, last I looked, was over $100,000. That's a significant cost.
Chief Johnson, Tom Sudachir, if I may.
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. A couple of questions. When we put, and this appears to be the original plan from 14 years ago, am I correct on that?
Yes, it is.
We paid Rice Fergus Miller at that time, paid them in full for their architectural. So I'm looking at this architect and engineering fees. Where is that amount coming from as far as related to 14 years ago?
That has to do with making sure everything's going to be current as we move forward and asking for the permit and any changes that we may want to add to it. Yeah, we invested a significant amount of money in completing those plans that were submitted for our conditional use permit back in 2007 originally, as we went through that process. So those were to get those plans, all that packaged together to get it to the county. And then we ran into the economic downturn. And so these are going to be any changes, and then keeping this process moving forward and being the architect of record with Pierce County.
My second question would be on the conditional use permit. We've looked into that before, and I don't recall what the outcome was. Does that permit, can we downsize, upsize, delete something, add something? Where do we stand with that conditional use permit?
That's why you're seeing the drawings that you were looking at 14 years ago. We have a conditional use permit for what was submitted. If we have significant change, we would have to go back through the process and we would not be able to get what we have currently in the plan.
So we're married to this plan as it stands.
To a degree, we can have certain percentages of change within the plan, but once we start stepping out of that, then it's a new project.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? So I took the sticker shock right from the beginning and hit you with that one, and we can move on to a smaller project. So as we have increased staffing within the district, we ran into our buildings, our current buildings were, most of them were built in 86, 87, 88. As all volunteer stations not built to be staffed with people in them 24/7, 365. And moving forward, we're looking at these stations, mainly 58, 59, as a 2-company station. So a medic unit and an engine company. And the proposed changes would be a full remodel of the living quarters, the offices, the workout space, the kitchen, and the dorms. And then after, in that same project, would be an addition of another full-length apparatus bay and then a support functions bay. So this one may take a minute for you to load. Lots of detail on here. The easiest thing to explain is if it's a dark wall, a heavy line, it is a new wall. So if we start on the very far left, which is going to be the easiest, that's a support bay. It includes a room for our disaster storage. Currently, we're storing most of our disaster supplies and connexes, which were bought 25+ years ago, which are now falling apart, and we need to move that stuff somewhere else. In the event of a natural disaster, we have supplies to maintain our staffing at the stations and keep them fed. The next area of that is a shop, simply just like you have at home, a workspace to work on any of our equipment that we maintain within the station and to keep stuff moving. And then a decon area. So one of the biggest risks of firefighters these days is cancer. The things that burn in structures and that we encounter are carcinogens. Within this decon room, it's negatively ventilated. There's a bunker gear extractor. Better terms, it's a big washing machine, but we put our bunker gear in with dryers, walk-ins, basically a sink. And we decon all of our gear in there, and it stays in there until it's clean when we return from a call that we need to clean it from. And then station 58 is our technical rescue station. Our technical rescue members have a full complement of gear that they carry with them every day. They need more space to store that gear, and this is the storage area for the technical rescue members of the station. Moving to the right is a full-length apparatus bay. And in the drawing, you're seeing 2 engines back to back. And this currently we have at this station, we have an engine, a rescue, a trailer, and a medic unit. We simply have no more room to put anything. We're backed rear to rear in the apparatus bay, and this gives us a little bit of breathing. Let's go to the upper left corner of the station itself. Heavy lines, again, that's our bunker gear storage room, which will be, once again, our gear should be stored out of sunlight, negatively ventilated if we can. All those things are built into that space. Moving around, we have dorm rooms. around the outer edge with the lieutenant on the far right wall having his own station officer, having his own dorm room, which is attached to the hallway, and then his own office. And then the only changes within the core of that station there, wall-wise, are rearranging bathrooms so that we have unisex restrooms and shower rooms. There will be some configuration of the kitchen area, but no, in essence, movement of the walls. Going down from the kitchen, we have an extended day room area. Next to that is a enlarged PT area with access to just an outside patio, so we can go out and use the outside space as well. And then we're actually moving the new firefighter shift office over to that corner for the firefighters. And then we still also have new walls there, a new public entry, which we can isolate if someone comes into the station, they can come into that space without gaining entry into the rest of the station unless we let them in. So if we go to the next slide, it's a little bit better of a illustration. So we'll go to far left again. So that's what we're asking is the apparatus support bay. The orange is the addition of the additional app bay, and then the outline red is the addition of the living quarters. Specifically at these two stations, we are asking for all three of these, as these are two of our main stations with double crews, an engine and a medic unit being out of these stations. You will see this drawing for this sketch later on in the presentation as we talk about other stations. Any questions so far? All right. Next few slides, we have one of these for each of the requested capital facilities, simply showing you that the light blue are additions, the dark blue is as the station sits currently. So that's for station 58, and then 59. So we're staying well within our boundaries. So here's the elevation from the front, back, and both sides of the station. You'll see this slide once again as we talk about some of the other stations, as if we added all three of the potential different upgrades to some of the other stations, they would look the same as this, as the stations are the same now. Making the improvements, they would look the same. All right. So station 58, total cost $8,035,345. Same breakdown as you saw for the training campus, and then within it are all those kind of same numbers. Nothing has changed there, adding up to that $8 million. The next slide is the exact same, except for station 59 asked for the same station. There are some cost differences just because of sites and site work. But station 59 has the addition of that cost escalator because it's later on in the project. We don't feel we can do two of these large remodels at the same time because we have to move these people to other stations. So we're trying to limit it to one of the major station remodels at a time. So station 59 is roughly $320,000 more than station 58. If those escalations hold true and we do it in that order. Questions for those two stations? I will keep moving. So our next one, station 51 tear down and rebuild proposal. So currently, Station 51 is situated at 6711 Kimball Drive. It was originally built in 78, remodeled in 2000. This proposal that you're going to see is for a complete tear down of the building and then building a new station at the same location. It has great access to our freeway, both going north and south, east and west on the freeway, however you want to call it. But it also gives us access to major arterials, which gives us access to the other parts of the district. And then Station 51, much like the training tower and the campus, has an additional building that we're going to call the logistics support building, which will sit at the rear of the property. So the piece of property that the district owns on Kimball, as you see from this slide, is kind of long and narrow. So we like the location, it works for us. So the architects came up with a plan that in essence fits within that piece of property, because we don't believe we have anywhere else that we would like to go at this time. This is for us. It works well for us, I should say. So proposed Station 51 is a 2-story, we'll get into that. And then the logistics buildings behind, we have a relocation of the fuel pumps. There's a large area of woods behind the current. We will take most of that. And if you can see it on your detail, there are some lines for the existing fuel pump, the existing pavement end, and then the outline of kind of the station across the front. But we'll get into those things. Lots of detail. First floor, Station 51. We'll start at the top of the page. Those 2 smaller apparatus bays are for our medical services officer and our battalion chief. We have bunker gear storage, a workshop, janitorial. There's a restroom, some disaster storage, another decon area. This one's about the same size. Tech rescue gear, because at times our rescue technicians will be assigned to other stations. They need storage space for that gear. And then we put a classroom on floor 1 on the back of the building. This gives us the availability to do training at kind of the core of our district, and allows our crews to remain response ready so they can respond to their calls within the district. Moving across the drawing and towards the bottom, we have 4 bays. There's just a different array of equipment in there now. We're not sure what it will be in the future, but we have the ability to basically go out the front or out the back. Our primary response vehicles will all be out of the front of the station. So on the drawing, there's 2 engines, a truck, and a medic unit. We don't know what that configuration will be right now, but it gives us the space to do what we want to. Moving down to the bottom part of the station, more of the crew quarters areas. We'll start in the upper left. There's an MSO office, or an MSO sleep room, an MSO office, and a conference room. We will be eliminating some of the doors, mini doors in here, so that we have more wall space in the offices. And then a battalion chief and a battalion chief sleeping area. Then we have a firefighter office going kind of down, our administrative assistant office, and then the various offices for the ladder company proposed office, engine company office, electrical, an IT room. And we have a public entrance with a unisex bathroom at the public entrance. Along the bottom, all together with those along the bottom in the BC and the MSO sleeping rooms, we have 13 sleeping rooms. And then laundry, bathrooms, there's an elevator because it's a 2-story, stairs. We have a small EMS supply office for just the medic unit working out of here. PT room off the rear going out to the patio, much like you saw on station 58 and 59. Floor 2. Not a whole lot of floor 2. But as I said, we're trying to make this work within the footprint of the property that we have. So on floor 2, we have a smaller meeting room, stairs up and down. The day room, the elevator machine room. This station, we are proposing a fire pole. There's a restroom up top, food lockers, dining, kitchen, stairs down, and then just a deck on floor 2. Any questions for station 51, floor 1 or floor 2?
Is this where you anticipate having the ladder truck?
I wouldn't answer that right now. We're still looking at our strategic plan and response calls and things.
I just did
I just said that they're just simply drawings of random apparatus.
Okay.
All right, we're not sure what the ladder truck would be right now. We're still working on that piece. All right, we'll go to the next drawing. So our logistics support building. If you look at our current station 51, we have all those things, not as much room as you saw on the plan. We've outgrown it. But within that structure we currently have, we have a lot of other things going on. We have some temporary structures to the rear of the building. This logistics support building would take care of those things. Currently, we have 3 trailers out back with various uses that would allow us to bring those in. Would allow us to have a shipping and receiving at 51. More of someone just coming to the front door and dropping packages. At 51 is our main medical supply. So as stations use their supplies out of medic units and start getting into the reserve stuff, they would come here, not going into the main station and interrupting the current crew that's sleeping. As COVID came along, we found that we needed more medical PPE. Currently, we have that stored at another station. If we move forward with this, we move all of those increased supply of medical personal protective equipment to station 51 in here. We have fire gear storage right now in a small area at 51, and this would give us the storage for that, as well as uniforms. We carry extra medical equipment. If one of our electric cots goes down, we have a spare. We need somewhere to put those larger items, so that goes in here. SCBA and radio repair. We have to flow test our SCBAs every year in order to be compliant, which takes up a lot of room for that and for repair. We have a repair area here. Currently, we do medical exams every year. It's in a station right now. We're proposing in this medical or in this logistical supply or support building that goes into there. And then we also room for a restroom, 2 offices. And then as we do it once a year, we have to fit test our SCBA masks, our breathing masks, and our personal protective equipment. So we need a smaller room for that. And that would take place in that building as well. So it's kind of the all the support functions that currently happen around the district. We're relocating them centrally so that it's a better use of our employees' time and they remain reliable to respond to other calls. So the highlights: new station constructed to meet current building codes, unisex sleeping rooms, unisex showers, expanded footprint because we're just kind of out of space. Updated fuel island to meet the current code, and then the logistics support building for what's going to happen on this property. So next slide. So as you'll see, and you'll see the theme through it, the total cost of the structure, I've tried to put it in red so you couldn't miss it. For the building itself, the to completion with all the cost escalations is just over $40.5 million. A large number. But reminder that we are tearing down or removing an entire structure, starting from scratch, and in this situation, one of the bigger dollar items is temporary housing and accommodation. We are relocating an engine company, a medic unit, a battalion chief, and a medical services officer for probably just over a year. And then we have contingency monies and those things built in there as well, just like the other projects. There's no changes in this breakdown. So as I said, Station 51 is in a prime location for us. Response-wise, it gets us everywhere we need to go. Any questions for this, for Station 51? Okay, moving on. So currently, the next one you'll see is Station 52, 55, and 56. All these buildings are the same. We currently staff Station 52 and 56 with single engine companies. As we went to Rice Fergus Miller, we asked them for some options. As you saw before, the first option is, or the full remodel of the living quarters with offices, bathrooms, and dorms. Adding on an additional bay is another option, and adding on the support side, the support apparatus bay, or doing everything. So next slide. As I promised, it's the same slide, the same outlines. The living quarters improvements is in red. The addition of the apparatus bay is in orange. And then the addition of the support bay is in green. We'll see one of these for each building. Specifically highlighting this one, if you look at it, Station 52, the light blue area to the top of the page, it will take us to the edge of our area that we're able to work in. So what will be required at Station 52, it won't be a drive-around station. We will have, as it's noted, a new driveway where the engine company will pull up, circle back, and then back into the station. That's the major difference between this station and the rest of them. 55, no different. This one we're able to drive around. We still maintain that barrier and able to drive around the station. Um, 56, the same. And then if all three options were done, the station would look exactly the same as 58 and 59. If we chose to do, it was chosen to do one or the other, a variance of them, it would obviously change the elevations that you're currently seeing. But if we did all the stations the same, they would look the same as this elevation. So we will hit 52 first. $8,944,106. And we have the breakdown just like before of the living quarters option, the apparatus, addition of the apparatus bay, and then the addition of the support bay with the associated costs there. Temporary housing for this station is cheaper. It's one engine company, and we're not moving a bunch of people and spreading them out across the district. $55. So if you remember the price from 52 to 55, it's 100 or $1,200,000. That's because in the original plan, as we estimated out, station 52 would be done in 26. Station 55, if we did it, would be done in 29. That's that large cost escalation as we moved out. One of the unknowns. So there's a significant cost escalation there. And then moving to 56. 56 is just a little bit more than 52 because it takes place right after and 2 years before 55 if we were to do it. So 56 is 9,384,073. Questions about those three stations? Like I said, they're all very much the same. It's a matter of which options that we choose to do: living quarters, the apparatus bay, and the support bay. 53 and 57 for us are two of the outliers. The stations were remodeled in 2012 under a grant. They are, for us, would be single station design, so a single engine company. And we are simply looking to expand the core support facility functions. So the decon, the storage, and single point of entry. So if we go to that slide, the only addition to the station itself would be the lighter area. So bunker gear storage, tote storage, a decon room, and then as we've had with COVID, we need kind of a check-in point, one way in, one way out, or check through, and that's that extra room. As we move forward, it may be used for something different, not sure. The rest of the shaded station is as it sits today from that remodel in 2012. So 4 dorm rooms, PT room, bathrooms, able to support a single engine company. Site map of station 53, same thing, the addition would be the light blue. And then 57, a little bit more work here, as it would be the light blue. And then a little bit more paving, adding some parking stalls, because currently we only have parking stalls, 5 of them across the back, 2 up front, not counting the disabled parking. So station 53, once again, as we move forward, in the estimating plan was 1 of 28. So total cost for that would be $1,129,613. And then 57 is $1,189,456. Doing them 6 months apart, the price difference is we're adding some asphalt and some parking on those 2 facilities. So breaking it down, is any questions for stations 53 and 57?
57, Chris, I know the front part of the driveway there, is like blacktop. Is that how the rest of that?
So that's going to be current code as we go through it. Yep. Same thing on the drill ground. And any of the new proposed projects, a certain percentage is going to need to be porous, and that's accounted for. All right, 54. So station 54, same plan as we've seen. The options for the offices, dorms, the additional bay, PPE storage and support functions for all of them. Same slide that you have seen, with living quarters in red, apparatus bay in orange, and support functions in green. The site plan of 54. And then 54, as you've seen and as I've spoken to earlier, building is the same, it's the same plan if we did everything. The cost is more because of this is one of the last buildings that we added, so it's actually in 2030. So your cost is $10,354,000. Questions for station 54? All right, we're making this a little bit easy on me. Next one is our maintenance facility proposal. So our maintenance facility, currently we have 3 mechanics, 2 laborers, and 2 facilities maintenance folks working out of here. We're just looking to add a little bit more room for all of those things that we have. Addition of a carport over the existing parking area to the rear of the facility with 20 amp power to each stall. Most of our vehicles now we need to plug in if they're not going to be ran for any extended period of time because of what's in them. This would also account for construction of a new storage addition and then expanded parking in the front of the facility. You're not going to be able to read the small blue writing, but those are just what I've just told you about. To the left on the left side of the slide, that's 8 new parking stalls. Then the next thing that you encounter in blue is a 1,300 square foot storage addition. And then a carport over with electrical to all the parking stalls to plug in the vehicles. Once again, in the estimates, this isn't going to be done until 2029. Obviously, that can change as we move things up. But for those changes, the total cost would be $1,722,825. Questions about the maintenance facility?
I missed it. When was it built?
I do not know originally when the maintenance is. What? 05 would be a guess. So the big number with all of those projects, if we did everything that was proposed to you on that timeline and the estimators were exactly on, we are looking at $117,790,733. And the graph there that you see that I just put in simply for you to kind of grasp it are all the projects lined up from training campus on the far left, which is a high priority for us because of the conditional use permit. Moving through station 58, 59, 51, and then 52, 56, 53, 57, the shop, 55, and 54. Early on in the discussion, I said that what wasn't included. One of the things was a project manager. As we move through these projects, hopefully, and get approval for some of them, we want to hire a project manager. We believe with the project manager, we may be able to knock off a bigger project with a smaller one. So timelines may get squished a little bit tighter, hopefully, and that's saving us money because of those cost escalation. Questions? So I have more. So if we go to the next slide. So that's capital facilities. I thought it would be, Chief Doan thought it would be a good idea. So some of our other capital items that are coming up. In addition to the need to improve or remodel our stations and facilities, the district is evaluating the need to replace and build the following items. So our rolling stock, our fire engines and our medic units. That's what gets us to the calls and out. Our SCBAs, and then communications, so that would include towers and radios. And we'll go into that breakdown relatively quickly. So engine replacements. So our current fleet, the lifespan roughly of a frontline fire engine is 15 years with another 5 as a reserve. What you have below that is the breakdown of the year, how many, and what station they're currently assigned to. So as you can see, the oldest piece of equipment that we have for a fire engine are two 1995 Pierce Internationals at station 53 and 54. And then going down the list to our newest at station 58 and 52. So we have a kind of a close example. East Pierce just went through capital facilities and rolling stock replacements. So East Pierce, Casey Meyer and I have looked at the engines. It's close to what we would, something that we would want. I've talked to Hughes Fire, which is the Pierce representative. Roughly 775,000 by the time we escalate costs because of our price increases coming, which we're not going to do anything about that. So per engine at 775,000. If you flip to the next slide, just a schematic drawing of it. And then for most people, the beautiful engine that it is on the page. Not saying we're going to this paint style, it's just the example of East Pierce's fire engine. It's the most recent from this year. They took delivery of it, and it's the closest to us that have taken delivery of something that would be equivalent to what we would look at. And there are options for engine replacements. Loan programs through the state, purchasing outright, leasing, but we wanted to get that in front of you as well. So medic units, 80% of our calls, over 80% of our calls are medical in nature. Current lifespan of a medic unit is about 10 years. We do run these a lot. What you see kind of before you is the reverse order of engines. I just realized that. So our newest is at the top, our oldest is at the bottom. And then if we split the page, don't know if you can make out the details. So most of all of our medic units come from Broad Northwest. She gave us. This is from May 13th of this year. Speccing a 2021 ambulance to our specifications. You'll see that it says, if you can make it out, is 227,000. That's minus, that doesn't include sales tax or some of the capital equipment that we carry in them. So we're estimating that $325,000 for a brand new medic. Questions about engines or medic unit replacement?
Sean,
Yep.
the previous purchases we did testing on, those were done with local laws, right? Maybe you can talk a little bit on the process works. My impression is that was successful for us.
So Nick, not put you on the spot. Finance guy.
Hey, Chief Johnson, can you repeat the question because I couldn't understand it whatsoever.
What I was saying is we use local funding to fund apparatus replacements before I came on board. I just wanted them to go into a little bit of detail about what that entails, how it works, how successful it was for us.
Yeah, so at a pretty high level, right, from the local loan program, we have used the local loan program in the past, and I believe it was successful. And it's a program through the state that allows government agencies like us to purchase equipment or finance equipment or rolling stock facilities at a really good interest rate. And so the interest rate is based on how many years you want to run the loan out, much like a regular interest rate would be to purchase other things. So when we were looking last week, not specifically for our, inputting information for our organization, but what their most recent rate on a 7-year loan for a piece of rolling stock is 0.48% of the interest rate, and so that allows us to capture a really good interest rate. And then there's no penalty for paying it off early. It's just that's how. And then the longer you roll it out, the higher the interest rate. And then they'll let you roll out loans on buildings longer than vehicles. The lifespan is significantly reduced. But it does offer you a really low interest rate to be able to purchase for government agencies to purchase stock.
I think with all three of these, we put these in here, the fire engines, the medic units, and the SCBA's, because if you add them all up, it's quite a bit. And it just kind of gives us some choices. I think you're right. Commissioner Nelson knows that's fairly cheap money for, but we're going into budget process. So we're trying to figure out, do we put the payments for loans into the budget, or do we capitalize this? So these are some of the questions that we need and some direction from you on. So we wanted to give you the whole scope of our entire capital needs. And then I think you're right, there's some different ways to do it on date and on the program, which one we do with which. And James Johnson's getting to it, but we put a little bit of money away for SBA, so we continue that and cash flow it ourselves. Do we use the loan program, or do we put it in here? Sorry, I just did thunder chief on SBA. It's all good.
So the last one for Medicaid, I don't have a picture. I'm going to take a picture of the latest Medicaid. So very much the same. You like it that way, but that's just a drawing from the spec. SCBA replacement. So the current SCBA's were purchased in 2008. The air bottles have a 15-year life on them. The bottles will expire in August of 2023. People have asked a multitude of questions. Simply put, we don't want to just replace bottles because technology, as with anything else, has greatly increased over 15 years. So we will be looking at a total replacement of the entire fleet. The other thing is we are out of warranty on everything on the SCBA. So if something breaks, we buy it. If we were to go to Scott, new warranty is bumper to bumper for as long as you own the pack, except for the very few things. So that cuts down on those repair costs for us as well. Next slide. So we're in Scott. You have a Scott picture in front of you. Nothing is set in stone, I'll say that. But I will say, personal view, I love this pack. So the new one is a 2020 or 2018 edition. Depending on how it works, we may have a new edition, we may not. It varies. Sometimes the editions are even a year late because of what they want included. But it would be a replacement of our current SCBA's, our escape systems for confined space for technical rescue, our rapid intervention team packs, masks, and all the assorted equipment. Roughly, we're looking at $1.7 million. We have put some money away for some of that. We are looking at grants, the multitude of things, just like with fire engines for these. So it is a big dollar item. In 2018 or 2008, I spent $791,000. So do that escalation for 15 years. They're not cheap, but it is what we were. The final thing. Communications and radio changes. Currently, our fire district works off the 700 megahertz radio system along with Keith-Penn and a few other smaller departments. Larger departments in the county are working off the 800 megahertz system. Future costs or changes, we may need to go to the 800 system. Future costs might be adding additional radio towers so that we get better service within our fire district for the 800s. And those costs that I have not looked into, it was more of, here they are, here's something that's coming down the road, but I don't know costs. Are there any questions about those 4 items, engines, medic units, SCBAs, or communications?
We wanted to put the communications in there just to keep it in the forefront of our conversation. And, when we say we unknown cost at this time, but it's just something that as the pool grows smaller, the costs go up for us. What are we going to do? So that one's a little confusing, and I just want to keep it in the forefront that we have to figure something out in the near future. Commissioner Wilson, I think.
How much money do we have set aside?
That was up for debate today. We were looking.
Just ballpark.
So we have to keep a reserve account. And then we've been earmarking money that has been set aside to put in the reserve account every year in the budget. It wasn't always specifically designed just for SCBAs, but there's been lots of discussion about different capital opportunities, But we knew we were gonna eventually come down the pipe, and then if we had the money there, we'd have opportunities to have discussions, I think, about what we wanted to do with it. And so we're required to keep basically 2 months of operating cash in reserves. So what we have over and above that number now is about 1.5, 1.6 million dollars. That 2 months of operating cash is going to go up a little bit next year because the budget goes up a little bit, right? But I think we're ballpark, we're right in the 1.5 million dollar range currently, and then we're also having the budget this year to move an additional $300,000 of revenue in. So we're probably in the 1.8 range above what our current reserving is required, and then that'll change.
And then we have another opportunity, at least one more before they run out, and it would put us up against the wall, is going out for grants. We've been talking to some neighbors. We go for a grant, having those neighbors included in a regional grant opportunity greatly increase our. Looking at all the options, and we'll decrease the price. Yes. So, any other questions about those 4 non-building capital items?
John, when you say grants, you mean specifically for SCBAs or for
Yes. So what we're looking at is specifically an SCBA because we can write under the safety.
So you increase the total number of SCBAs by increasing the number of departments.
And going regionally, if you look at single departments that put in for grants versus a regional, your regional will get it before the single department. Because you're getting a larger area and therefore your cost. So thank you. That's all the information I had for tonight. Thanks for the opportunity to present it and to get it out there to everybody on what we're looking.
I have a request before tomorrow night's meeting, if at all possible. The audio, at least from my end, when my fellow commissioners were speaking, I could hear Chief Johnson pretty good, but any of the commissioners, when they were speaking, it was just garbled. I was picking up maybe every 3rd or 4th word. So I'm hopeful by tomorrow night, the audio is a bit better.
Mr. Sage. Thank you.
So one thing I want to point out to the other commissioners, while we're on the committee working on this, you'll notice that he mentioned several times the different options. So this isn't we do everything. That's the look and see what's needed. Pick and choose a little bit. We have those options
had conversations at the committee level about, you know, things that we think. Again, this is, we had all the money available to do this. There's some things on here that we kind of all came to the conclusion that are not necessary right now, but most of it is.
You look at the buildings, yeah, they do some of the things that we want to do. Some of that has, one has to happen. There's the training center with the timeline that we're up against. 2024, in my mind, has to happen. Now, and we also know that we can't stray too far, so it's not like we can shrink that down or expand it out. You're stuck with what that is, unless we want to spend hundreds and thousands of dollars to re-engineer and do a different architecture firm and buy a bunch of other drawings. So, and hope that it gets approved. Yeah, and that's the whole other part of that process. So I think we're pretty locked into that, and then 5-1 now. The rest of them, although I think are, especially the facilities where we have 3-person engine companies now, definitely need to be looked at. But then that's where we need to start, sharpening our pencils possibly, and taking a look at some things, and talking to some of our consultants to see what we're going to be successful in. The other thing is I haven't really looked at a fleet plan here, but SCBA's are important. Those expire. We're going to have to do that. Sounds like we've put aside some money to take care of that issue, but then engine stuff. We look at these at 27 years on the road, 23 years on the road, 18 years on the road, 14 years on the road, and I know that thankful to our fleet, they're probably in pretty good shape for the most part. I would imagine that a couple are not. But that's something that we need to address as well. So there's a few of these things that are kind of want tos, and I think we got a lot of have tos in here. For the more discussion.
All right, thank you. We'll continue moving forward with what we can.
Just kind of doing some figuring as a last year. I just kind of doing some figuring here as going along and added in the look at the trucks. A couple of medic units, SCBA and radios. So looking at 123 million with everything. 3 trucks, 2 medics, SCBA, radio. I don't know for sure what the radios run. I might be a little low. I had 500,000. So I had $123,000, $123 million, $123 million is the overall cost for all that done. So on their all station maintenance. So I guess it would be one thing that we need to, I guess, look at how, do we want to keep going back? Do we, put everything in eggs in one basket at one time? How do we want to do it? I got my gut feeling, but it's me on what I would propose, but look at, but see what our people have that got hired. see what they think, on there. But
It sounded like a couple million for props. It's not included.
Yeah, we don't have burn props, and this is old numbers that I'm just from my memory. In the previous one that I built, they were around $250,000 per prop.
yeah,
So
that's not figuring out the props. I guess to me, what good is a training tower if you don't have the burn props? I mean, of course. I guess that's a big thing when you mention that those weren't in there. What's the point?
Yeah, we just it was old technology when the plans were done, so we just need to look at the new technology and get a number. So that was the only thing, that's the only reason we don't have a number, not proposing not to put it in.
I think the other thing that would be interesting to figure in is what is the potential income that we could go, I mean, we see what crunch time brings in, and that's just on a small scale of what crunch time does. What could this facility do? If you're going to build, let's build it. I mean, I know. Well, let's make it what these guys face on out there. I mean, you don't go into a building that's not burning.
I think there's also grant opportunities for those products.
Yeah, well, and that's, I mean, of course, if anything we can do for grants, absolutely, but I really think we're gonna build that, we need to build it. The burn scenario things need to be a big part of that.
No, I would hope, an option for some regional folks to be able to use that facility, especially after the peninsula, that just have use of that, shares that it's not going to cost.
We try to bring people forward, so.
Anything else from the audience? Any hands raised, questions in the chat box? You got anything else out there? Yes. Excuse me. Anything else, Tom?
Commissioner Sudich, do you have anything else for us?
Oh, sorry, I could barely understand you. No, I'm good for now.
Okay, thank you.
I hope the audio gets taken care of though, because the audience, I don't think can hear any better than I can right now.
Chief Johnson. Questions, this meeting is adjourned. I did.